Aloha everyone, Jody Mountain here with Lineage of Light on the island of Maui, and I'm here today with some offerings around ancient wisdom for fear. My path has been one called Kealahoku, the Pathway to the Stars. It's an ancient lineage through my teacher Kahu Abraham Kawai Awaia Make Ole Uliyama. And it has served to wake up my own indigenous heritage, and to Kahu I'm eternally grateful. And so I pass on some things that might be helpful to us in this time. And so what we'll be exploring, first of all, is the ancient paradigm of our internal world, and the difference between how we see it today and how the ancients saw it. And how the ancients saw it was more in line with kind of a natural state of being that is still in us, but we have kind of distorted through our modern worldview. So basically, in a nutshell, the way we want to start approaching anything that is arising in our system, like fear, is that we want to realize that everything in us, in Indigenous mind, is part of our family. It's part of us. It's part of our internal family. And as such, maybe the highest solution or the highest meeting we can have with that being is to embrace it and to actually bring it closer to us. And that can be kind of a frightening proposition, especially with something like fear. But I'm going to give you a little bit more of this paradigm so it might become a little less frightening. And afterwards, we'll do a little bit of movement, which will also help us move with that and kind of open that up to a clearer place in our bodies. So when we make this great embrace, there's two things right now that I'd like to offer you to remember. And one is that this, whatever is arising, including fear, is arising inside of us. It's happening, it's coming up inside of our being. And as part of the being that we are is every experience we've ever had, every wise choice we've ever made, all of our wisdom, all of our joy, all of our whole lifetime of creation and memories. So this fear is rising within a context. It's rising within a greater field of all of us, that really all of us never goes away. We just focus on different parts at different times. So when we're focusing on fear, what can happen is fear can take over and can feel like it's coming from the outside, and can also feel like it's bigger than me. It's too much, and it's happening to me, and I don't know what to do about it, and I'm powerless. When the actual truth in this ancient paradigm is that fear is arising inside of you and arising inside of all of who you are. And then to take it a step further, what is also inside of us is a being that Kahu would refer to as the head of our household. So the head of our household is like this wise life force that is in us. To me, it's more close to the great mystery in our bodies that is operating everything right now, that is taking away dead skin cells and replacing new ones, that is digesting our food, that is releasing hormones in tiny amounts as we need them, that is lubricating our eyes, that is growing our hair, is this great mystery that is so much wiser than our tiny mind. And within that is the breath of spirit. So in this belief system anyway, I consider that spirit is what is actually animating our bodies, actually allowing us to be alive. And that is the closest place we can be in contact with that spirit. So this fear is arising also within that embrace of this greater being, of the mystery, of spirit, of life itself. And in this work, what we do is we move closer towards identifying ourselves, or listening to more so to that spirit, that mystery, than we do to kind of the programming that we've received in our minds. So our tiny mind, which is our little personality mind, I call it my tiny mind, might perceive that life is happening to me, that I have no power against what is occurring, and that all I can do is react. I feel afraid over here. I feel angry when I look over there. And all of it I can do nothing about. So what we want to try and shift to in this paradigm is to look, instead of the outside, to look at what is arising inside of us. So we get to notice, oh, I'm feeling fear. I'm really afraid. I'm paralyzed. I'm so afraid, or however your fear is arriving. So to notice that and to bring it closer to us. Sometimes what I will do is I will see whatever the big feeling is that I'm having, like a little child. And indeed, in the family paradigm that this work works with, all of these emotions that arise in us would be more children of the family. And the head of the household is that great being, that great mystery that can embrace all of the children. So first of all, when I start to see my fear as a little child, if you can imagine that there are all these beings inside of us, these emotions and feelings and sensations, and they're just trying to speak. And in this paradigm, they're trying to speak to us for our well-being. And I know that might be tricky to assimilate right now, that fear is actually for me. Why does it make me feel so horrible? But let's just try this in real time and see what might be changing in your perceptions. So I'd like everyone to just close your eyes for a moment and just sit in a comfortable position. If cross-legged isn't comfortable for you, then find an easy, comfortable position. You could have blocks supporting you, or you could be in a chair. Doesn't really matter. And just take a few deep breaths with some sighs. So inhaling, exhaling, either with just breath or with breath and sound. A few more times. Inhaling, exhaling, or just the breath. Inhaling, exhaling. And one more time. Inhaling, big breath. Exhaling, and just then breathing a few just regular breaths and feeling if there's any change inside your lungs, your chest, your belly. As you breathe, and just come back to the body and just allow whatever else is going on to continue, and see if you can rest in this moment of just breathing. You might feel different sensations. So right now, I feel a tingling in my hands. I feel a tingling in my face, in my ears, especially my right ear. I feel some sensation on the top of my right thigh. I feel the weight of my body on the floor. And I feel the movement of my torso as I breathe 360 degrees around me. I feel the shape of my hands as they rest on my foot. So just notice what you notice. It doesn't have to be anything that we would call significant, but just notice what's here right now in your body, in your perception. And then just gently drop the chin to the chest. And how you want to navigate here is any tiny sensation that you feel as you bring the chin toward the chest. If you feel a pulling of the skin in the back of the neck, if you feel a tightness anywhere, I'd like you to pause there and just breathe. Just stay there and feel what you feel in that sensation in the back of the neck. And if it starts to dissolve and disappear, then you can go a little further. And if not, just be happy to stay where you are. And everything is just as relaxed as you can, and very gradually, if it feels good to stay here, just stay and breathe. Sometimes just the breath can be giving us lots of movement in the sensations and the emotions. And if you're feeling any emotions, just allow them to come up. If that fear starts to get bigger, just see if you can feel it as an energy and as a movement. And try not to change anything because of the fear. Try not to just jump up and shut off the video. Try not to obey the fear. Just let it bounce around inside of us or inside of you. And you can make tiny movements, bringing the right ear maybe toward the right shoulder in kind of a semicircle or a quarter circle. And I'm moving just a tiny bit before I feel a very soft sensation, kind of like the beginning of a stretch. And so I'm going to stop here and maybe even back up a little bit. And so as you pay attention to these tiny micro movements in the body, so we're going to bring the head back toward the chest. And at any time, feel free to stay where you are or to move slower than I'm moving. This is all about you and your own system. Taking the chin very gently, if you're in that place, toward the left shoulder. And just at the very soft edge, at the very beginning of any even sensation in the skin and the hair follicles, I'd like you to pause and just rest in the most comfortable place that you can be. And breathe. And what that means is that most of you is 100% comfortable. And there's a very tiny edge of sensation. Not your hard edge, not the edge that you would push, but the soft edge, the beginning edge. And bringing the chin slowly back to the center. Taking a breath all the way through the whole back body. Noticing any more weight in the head. And then slowly bringing the chin on the journey towards a parallel angle to the floor, meaning you're lifting your head very slowly, very gently, feeling every moment of the movement. As you very, very slowly come up to a vertical position. And adjusting your body if you are uncomfortable now in the way you're sitting. I'm going to move a leg out. And once you're comfortable, just take a few breaths into the rest of you, into the body. And notice any any different rhythms in your body, any energetic movements. Notice any different sensations in any part of you. Notice if there is space for a bigger breath, a deeper breath, or not, maybe a more shallow breath. So what we want to do as we notice is not make anything right or wrong, just kind of allow what is. And then notice the rhythm of any of those fear thoughts, if they are present. Have they expanded, or have they receded, or have they changed somehow, or have they disappeared? So this is a possibility that when we feel things, we can just pause and come back to the only place we really live, which is here in our bodies, and feel what we feel. And so if any of your fear feelings have changed or disappeared, in this paradigm, what has happened is that energy that was rising in such a focused way has become a bit more free, maybe even dissipated completely. It's still a part of us as an energy, but it might not be so tight, constricted, and focused. And now it is free energy, or at least a little bit of free energy in our system that we now can use to make different choices, to come from a more peaceful place inside of us when we move forward. So it'd be interesting to know what you observe. For myself, I'm feeling like a very dropped rhythm of breath and heartbeat, and more of a quietness inside of me. And it doesn't mean that the outside world disappears and that we don't now have to still deal with whatever is on the horizon. But it does mean that this place right here and now that we can come from can be a more a place where more of our being is gathered, a place where we are more in the head of our household. And then when we come to meet that difficulty or that fear, that now we might actually see it quite differently. We might feel quite differently about it, and we might be able to respond in a whole new way. So that is a tiny, tiny bit of what I would offer around the topic of fear. It's not magic. It's simply coming back to what's true in each of us at that moment. And it does require us to pause. So it's not really as easy if we're barreling through our lives and we come up against something and we react, and then we like try to grab onto this wisdom. What is that ancient wisdom again? What should I do? How am I supposed to be? It really, that's all the mind trying to grasp at answers. It really is necessary for us to come out of the distraction of the outside and come back to kind of a unity on the inside, coming back into touch with life that is allowing us to be alive, coming back into touch with the breath. That practice that we did a tiny bit of is called Ho'omanamana, and it is a way of meeting the constricting forces inside of us in an embodied way, and allowing them to be free, allowing them to be to become contributing factors in our forward movement in life, rather than factors that do keep constricting us and confining us. And so that happens on all levels. It happens on the levels of our emotions, of our body, of our anxieties, of our memories. Anything that's arising can be addressed in this way. So today, and we'll be doing more in this series, and today I just wanted to offer up that topic of fear, and there might be, of course, different movements and different ideas that come forward in other topics that we address. So I hope that was helpful, and feel free to do that a few times. Go over this video a couple times and see what arises in you, and see if it's helpful for your evolution and your joy. Thanks for joining, everyone. Aloha.